Welcome to Neutral Voices. I'm Dr. V, and this is In Depth, where we dig deep in the trenches of what matters. And tonight, what matters is you.
Mm-hmm.
What matters? Who matters? You, myself. We're talking about self-care,
Right.
especially after the holiday.
Yeah. And going into more holidays.
And going into, and it's bad to say. That's the one thing I don't like about the holidays.
The stress
because it
of-
seems like, because people, talk about all the things that you have to do, like Christmas and all these other ones. But Memorial Day seems just as stressful
4th of
as
July.
4th of July. What, the Labor Day?
I can't see a holiday is stressful.
They are
And I'm
stressful.
gonna tell you
You
why.
are the person
Because the
that's
simple
preparing
fact that
everything.
you prepare things the way that you want to prepare, regardless of what anybody else say. If I'm hosting it, guess what?
What?
Hey, this is what you need to bring. If you don't bring it, oh well, okay, I'm not tripping. Because the simple fact, I'm hosting and I'm gonna lay out where I want to lay out. So if you don't like what was there, you should have brought what you're supposed to bring. If you wanted to kick it, you can kick it. Now, we ain't finna have no drama. We ain't finna have no extracurricular activity. We ain't finna do all that. We finna have some fun, play some cards, have some drinks, and keep it pushing.
Well, in your family, it may work like that, but you got to think about the one person that always hosted. They got to make sure the house is clean. They got to make sure everything.
If that house ain't clean,
No, I'm just saying.
that
You
house
think
should be
about it
clean anyway. But
But think about it. Well, there's a different
People
clean.
cook.
Right, there's a different clean
people
from
sweeping stuff under the
yeah,
rug.
from your normal cleaning, then you got guest cleaning. So I'm just saying. So it becomes no matter if it's Christmas, no matter if it's Thanksgiving, no matter if it's the 4th of July. If you are the hostess, are you the host of that? You have extra stress on you. Got to make sure you got enough food because you say you coming, but then you bring 10 extra people. I got to make sure there's extra food. It's a lot of stress.
Listen, certain people don't RSVP.
Right.
If you come and
What
we
is
run
that?
out of food, we run out of food. Hey, you should have. Hey, it's
So
just
first come, first serve.
First come, first
Yeah.
serve. Because you always got that one.
Yeah.
That
too.
That go ahead and before they make their own plate to eat. They make their plate to go, so we got to eliminate that out the gate.
Right.
You got to eat first. People got to eat first.
Well, I'm just saying. So that's that's just a small part of our stress.
Right.
So I'm saying that about holidays because I'm thinking about what's to come. We just came out of, like we said, Memorial Day, and then we know there's a plethora. And let's not forget Juneteenth,
Right.
because it's now national.
A national
right?
holiday. Yes.
So, yay. But, so I don't know if there's a lot of food and all of that connected to that or how that works yet. So we haven't really got the grills out for that yet.
Right.
But moving forward, think about all of the stress that's connected to vacation. So, school is out.
Yes.
And everybody think, yay, for the teachers. Good, you made it. Here we are. But there's so much stress even connected to vacation.
Yeah.
So it's like you need a vacation
From your
after
vacation.
after the vacation.
Yeah.
So the airport traveling, waiting, the flight, all of that, not to mention the money
The
that you have to
expense,
spend. Yes. And then now just driving is almost worse.
And I can attest to that because I'm in the midst of that, that vacation. We're going somewhere in July. But you got to get your plane tickets. You got to worry about your plane tickets. You got to get them early because, if you get them too late, they're going to be, too much. So you got to get them in advance because the closer you get to your date, the more expensive they're going to get.
Right.
The hotels are booking up, so you got to plan a hotel early. And my stress is I hate flying. I really hate flying.
You're a nervous wreck.
I'm a nervous wreck, but I'm going to get on a plane again, but it's not a comfortable experience for me. So there's another stress or anxiety.
That's two things.
There's another stress and anxiety to that. So and then you got to factor in the cost. The day before because we're going on a cruise, but the day before you got to where you gonna eat, where you gonna lay. Then coming back. It's just so much stress.
So now that we understand the stress and all of the things, so let's make it personal. So a couple things. We know you're a giant and you can deal with a lot of things.
I'm not a giant, and I can't deal with a lot of things.
What things stress you out that, without a doubt, if it happens, it's gonna cause stress?
Something happened to my kids.
Okay.
Other than that, I learned how to just sit back and say I can only control what I can control. I can't control everything. Mm-hmm. So the things that you can control and can't get a handle of, you maintain that. So, okay. I mean, you can't sit here and say, oh, well, I got to be, nah. Because if you worry yourself and stress yourself out over something that you really don't have no control over,
right,
you'll lose your mind.
That's right. True. That's right.
So you control what you can control.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes, I do get a little frustrated, but I learned from me having Bell palsy, my whole face turning almost to the ground.
Right.
I'm not going to let something that I really cannot control stress me out, because that almost led into a stroke. No.
Okay, so I see self-care is definitely high on the list, because I remember when you start talking about the exercises and how you had to do certain things because of that. Okay, so and sometimes we learn to self-care because of some things that we could have gone through. So what about you, Clarence?
Well,
you look in the mirror.
Oh, really? No, it's simple things, and I stress over sometimes the simplest things, and it's like I know I can't control them, but you try to control or mitigate some of the things, and I'm always, sometimes the mediator, the person that try to put out minor fires.
So you could be stressed just in the middle.
Yes,
From this side to that side.
Yeah, because you see things coming, and you don't. If it doesn't make sense, to let it go. You try to mitigate or mediate or try to alleviate, some of the things. But then that brings undue stress on you, because you're taking on that problem, when it could have worked itself out, or you could have just not got involved. But, sometimes I take on, the most minuscule things, trying to fix things that don't need my fixing. Exactly. They need to be fixed, but they don't need my fixing.
And I think that's one of my problems for me, is trying to please people, other people. And so I feel some type of way if I feel like I fell short of the mark. And that causes a whole different type of anxiety and stress for me.
Right.
And so as we looking at those things that may cause us stress, then what are the things that we need to do to get rid of stress and to self-care? What are those things? Because it's almost like the opposite. So when you just overstress, you need to free your mind, let it go. What does the Bible say? To lay your burdens down.
Yes. Cast all your cares. However you want it, whichever verse you want to use.
That's right. For I care for you. Yes. He cares for us. And so when you do that, you get rid of the stress. So what does that look like when we actually get rid of stress and we put self first? And I have to remind myself, it's okay to put self first. When we put self first, what are we doing?
First we got to know the difference between selfish and selfless. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. Now, when you become selfless sometimes, that's when you and I, we're talking about, we just think that we can handle everybody's things. Sometimes, as E said all the time, we have to be selfish and realize that we are just important as anybody else outside of us. Right. But too many times, us as a whole people, we don't look at ourselves. I hear mothers saying that, they always do for their children, or fathers, they always do for their children, and then they're next. But we don't realize that sometimes we got to look at us first, because if we're no good to us, who can we be good to outside of us?
Right.
So you're correct.
So the first thing we have to do is realize how important we are. And I know that's a struggle for most of us. That's why we don't self-care, because we don't see ourselves as an important entity. So I think that's where we need to start first, is recognizing us as an important entity.
Right. And when you say that, I can't help but think about women, ladies, mothers, grandmothers, because it's just something about a mother, I'll say. Mm-hmm. She can't help it. She was built to nurture, and she's going to take care of those children. And a lot of times she's going to take care of those children or feed those children, even if she has to miss a meal. Yeah. I've seen it happen. And so especially mothers have to know how to put everything else aside. And let's say, here's a few things that you can do. Of course, yoga, meditate. That's where you free your mind. Listen to your favorite music, your favorite song, and sing along if you want to. no matter who's listening.
All off key.
No matter who's listening. But journaling,
Right.
those types of things, that's how you begin to unwind. Because, ladies, we have a lot on our shoulders, especially in this season of the physical. There's a lot of ladies right now that's worrying, and I mean young girls too, that's concerned that they're not meeting the standard
Right.
of just being a human being now in the eyes of men. And that can cause a whole nother level of stress. And so we need to know how to flip that stress and make that thing self-care. So what does that look like for us, ladies?
And
we're going to talk about
and
that.
We can get on the ladies, but I'm gonna give you the flip side of that coin too as well. Now I do agree that because of images and everything that is coming and what standards are coming, and looking at all it, social media is good for getting information out, connecting people, but it's so terrible about a lot of the images and things that they portray or ideas that they put in. You know, everybody got a platform, so now everybody can give their idea of beauty, that idea of perfect weight, you know, whatever. So if I'm giving my idea and I don't have, and somebody's watching me and they don't have that, but I'm giving it convincingly, then it's going to make them worry. It's going to make them stress. And what also is that it starts to peddle things, you know, the self-care is like, you know, there's so many remedies now, you know, so that we got to understand, and we got to know the difference, that some of those remedies are not really self-care. They just get rich quick schemes. So I think that, you know, first of all, you have to block out some of that nonsense and the stuff that you take in, and don't listen to everybody's opinion.
Well, first of all, you gotta talk to yourself. Okay. That's where everything goes for a secondary. You gotta give yourself confidence. That's why I call it self-esteem. You can't nobody put that in you. Right. That belongs only to you. Now, if you don't feed into yourself before you let somebody else feed into you, you doomed from the word go.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to understand, I just say me, I wake up every morning, Doc, we finna handle this.
Right.
And you know, you lead right into one of my next points. So one of the things for ladies, we have to stop trying to be where we think we're supposed to be and be where we are. So be present. Yes. Be in the present of who you are as an individual. Yeah. And so that means embrace yourself and ease. So what you're saying, you have to talk to yourself and say, you are beautiful, you are smart. What does Mary J say? Hello, gorgeous.
Good morning, gorgeous.
Good morning, gorgeous.
Yes.
You know, if you have to do that, whatever it takes. So when you say that, you make me think about not just self-care, but soul care. And that's when you're taking care of the inner you. And we need to be more mindful of that, because yes, there's the physical, and we know what that looks like, ladies, especially in a beauty salon. We know what the physical, taking care of the physical looks like. And so now for some ladies, self-care means I have to take a flight. I have to get a BBL, and I have to get a bunt, whatever they calling that. What is a lift?
Yeah.
You have to get a lift. You got to get this lifted. You got to get this snatched back, and all these other things. And so we're no longer embracing our beauty and ourselves from the inside.
Right.
And so soul care is one of the things that we need to
and I
grab hold of.
That's a very key point, because again, like E was saying, as I was saying, you know, sometimes we don't look that deep. We look superficial.
Yeah. So
and that things, that BBL, that lift, those tucks and all of that. That's when we think, oh, it's self-care because I'm doing this. But you know, it's still, what about the soul? You can change the packaging, but what about your mind and your soul? Right. You know, so yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's start right here. You got to get right with God.
Okay, bring him in there.
That's where a lot of, I'm not gonna just say female, a lot of people out the gate. So you so superficial, and you looking at, okay, this person got this, or this person look like this, and not understanding what they went through to get to where they got to. First and foremost, somebody might have been on their knees praying while y'all think they out partying and doing, they in the house praying to God, first and foremost.
That's the song.
Getting
it's the God in me.
Yeah, and getting that relationship with him first and foremost. Second of all, I don't care how much you snatch your body up and do all this extra stuff. If you ugly on the inside, you ugly on the outside.
That's a word right there.
Okay, so speaking of ugly, no,
and I'm not talking about the attributes.
No, I'm just saying.
No. I got you. That's why I'm saying. Speaking of ugly, so there's some things that we can do as we continue down this road of soul care. And so I just want to, just mention a few so we can get rid of our ugliness. And so one of those things, denying ourselves of anything that's ungodly. Now just process that.
That's true.
For a lot of people, that may be everything.
That may be everything.
But the truth is, when you begin to really be mindful about the person you are and your soul, you obviously care about where it all ends.
Yes.
And so learning how to live and deny those ungodly things.
Right.
Knowing how to say no to certain things that tempt you.
Yes.
And watch this one. Knowing how to rid yourself of the company that creates an environment for you to fall into a pit.
Right.
Watch this. Lust.
Yes.
There are certain things that surround us, and you may not stir it up.
Right.
But there's certain people that we may hang around.
Right.
And every time you get around certain people with your self-care and self, everything was good.
Till you got in that environment.
Till you got in that environment.
Yes.
And something about your tongue just flipped. And then you start using profanity and you start talking about some things and you start talking about how good that look and how good that might feel. And then next thing you know, you just spiraling on down.
Because whatever a man thinketh,
so is he.
Yes.
And so the lust of whatever it is, and lust is not just sexual.
No, it's not.
But it's just you're lusting after worldly things and material things. So if we can deny ourselves of that, and how about live soberly? This is Bible. Live soberly. Some people, that's just a struggle in itself. And righteous.
Right. And
being righteous,
you know something,
is going to, and I just wanted to make sure I end with that. But being righteous and godly in the moment, in the present, not talking about how good you were back then, not today.
That's true.
Not even looking at yesterday
that
and blaming yourself and not forgiving yourself.
That is so
because
true.
One thing that if you do not forgive yourself, if you're walking around in unforgiveness, you can't do self-care.
No, you're not caring for
so
that.
You keep, giving good points where this is going to start here. But honestly, just thinking about that, it actually has to start with you forgiving yourself for whatever it was.
Amen.
And say, hey, you know what? Today is a new day.
New day.
And move forward. And that's how self-care begins. Because that's where I want to get us to. How do we actually ignite? How do we jump off with the self-care?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's
and
a great
you were
point.
going to say something.
Well, I mean, you kind of said it what I was going to say anyway. So
I know that's right. I know that's right. Anyway, if anybody want to dig a little deeper in that, since this is in depth, where we go deep in the trenches of what matters, that was from the book of Titus 2:12. And I do want to also, while we're talking about the good stuff from the good book, I want to share this. Mark 6:13. Jesus said, "Come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest, not for a minute, but for a while."
Yeah.
What is he saying to us? I want to know, do you remember the Sabbath day with your working self?
Yeah.
Do you put time aside?
Yeah. And in that, with the Sabbath day, but let's look at our everyday. The rest. That is one key component to self-care that I think a lot of us neglect.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of us get our proper sleep. And not even our sleep, our downtime where we can sit still and I know we were talking about anxiety. We bring it on because we're always moving, but the time that you can sit still and stand still and just, we don't rest. As a people, we don't rest. We always on the go. We always think we got to do something. We always got to be out. But when do you take the time to just sit down?
And that's what I'm talking about. Self-care sometimes it's not a whole you exerting a whole bunch of energy and all of that. Sometimes it's you being still and resting, even if you're not asleep. You have to know how to rest. You were gonna you were gonna say something good. Okay.
I do that. It's times it is what it is. I'll go grab me a cigar.
Yes. Okay. So is that one of your unwinds?
Yeah, go grab me a cigar and my little cognac.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. There's your
it's just times when I do that because of some fact I shut everybody off. I shut the world. I hit that button in a heartbeat just to unwind.
That takes strength right there. But in that self-care to be able to hit that button.
It's three names that I answer the phone for at any given time.
Yeah.
My mother, my son, and my daughter. Those three, I answer the phone anytime.
Yeah. Okay.
But if anybody else,
I love that.
Yeah. But some of us can't. Some of us can't. Why not? Some of us don't disconnect like that.
But guess what? That's a
disconnect.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement, but I'm just saying that takes strength for some people. They don't have that fortitude to be able to do that. They think that for every ring there has to be an answer.
Right, but this is going down another direction, but hasn't it been proven that people are addicted?
Yes.
The phones and technology.
Yes.
It has become addictive for some people.
Yes.
And so, maybe they can't put it down. But that is a form of self-care.
Yes.
So let's talk real quick about some of the celebrities and what their self-care looks like.
Yeah.
So anybody in particular?
Well, and I was looking at a couple, and one of them caught my eye, and I had to look at it only because I'm a fan and know E's going to talk about me. But Serena Williams, it caught me differently. Serena Williams is an actual gamer, and think about some of us. We knock kids for sometimes sitting, for games, but for some people, that's their self-care, that's their escape, because there's another world that's created in a lot of these games that they get away from their trials and tribulations in today's present world. Now, I know some of them are addictive. I know some of them are, super violent, but there's some that you can create your own world and you can sit there and you can just not exist in this world. And that's self-care.
If I had Serena money, I can create my own world my backyard.
You could,
period.
But I'm just
saying,
I
had that kind of, I don't need to sit and play no game.
But it's not about the money for her, E.
No, if I had that kind of money, my backyard would be my own gaming system because guess what? I'm going to sit there. I ain't going to move. Leave me alone. Period. I'm just saying, and I get what you're saying, but playing a video game, something? I stopped playing the video games in 2008, 7. I ain't picked up the joystick since then.
You know what? That's because it's not therapeutic for you. There's something else connected to it for her.
Right.
For her to do that. And then there are people that play the games and they play as partners.
Right.
And so they get something else, that charge. Yeah. Because self-care should be rejuvenating.
Yeah.
It should, wherever you go, whatever you do to get into that self-care mode, your regimen, whatever it is, it should make you feel good.
Right.
It should have you going down. Watch this. Yes. It should have you going down the neuron fire street. Mm-hmm. And so tapping into these other things, and I don't want to miss any, so I'm just saying them real quick, but it should have you tapping into your dopamine. So you stop by there, pick up a little dopamine as you going down the street. Watch this. So you can get your focus on, and it helps you feel pleasure. Mm-hmm. And then you need to stop by serotonin, and then pick up something that's going to help you with your mood and learning new things and help you memorize some stuff. And then don't forget to drop by the endorphins. Pick up a few endorphins because you have to be able to cope with the pain and the stress, because there's gonna be some. If you haven't had any, something's coming. So just know that. And then last but not least, need a little bit of that oxytocin. So that love drug, what they call it, that little love drug that's responsible for childbirthing. Yeah, so you need a little bit of all of that in your life. So no matter what it is, at the end of the day, you should feel recharged.
Right.
You should feel good after your self-care.
Any self-care
regimen.
should have you do all of that, from
all
exercising to anything.
Everything.
You should have that feeling.
Everything. And so with that being said, so I just want to share a couple of my things, my favorite for self-care. So one of the things, just so we can be reminded of what self-care really is, it's when you're actually caring for yourself on all levels.
Right.
So not just the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, but full circle. We talked about holistic thinking, but holistically. And so one of the things I pride myself in is taking care of my teeth. And so I got my little self-care. And guess what? I actually keep that with me. That's how serious I am about my self-care when it comes to my teeth and my oral hygiene, my floss, and all of that.
Yeah.
What y'all, oh, did I fail to mention chocolate? Wait a minute. Okay, what you got?
Well,
What's
my self-care is like recently, and I've come into a new level of understanding of self-care, and E and I were talking about this before we came on the air, is, preventative health care, now.
Oh, wait, you just made me think about something. When you say that, do you know how many people think men don't care for themselves?
A lot of us don't, and a lot of us, we got to get to this, especially being younger, because we think we're invincible. We think we can conquer and go without. So there's an age, and now I'm at the age of understanding that there has to be something. So taking more vitamins, getting more rest, doing things. But my main self-care is I put on my headphones and I can listen to, it either can be music with words, or it can just be just music. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what kind of music it is, because it just, it brings you down and it just calms you. So I could shut everything off and won't hear anything. That way I got the headphones on. I'm not hearing the phone ring. I'm just hearing, I'm just sitting with music, and I can sit in the dark and listen to music, and I'm there.
And you know what? You need to make sure our ladies are educated, because sometimes we can feel some type of way, but men need self-care too.
Yeah. We need
that
time
means
away.
they need time too to care for themselves.
We don't want to talk all the time.
We sure don't.
We don't even want to listen all the time. But what I'm saying is go ahead, E.
A lot of times females don't understand a man fights so much in the world. Sometimes he don't want to fight in his own personal space.
Right.
So when you in his personal space, and he fought the world and got the world off his back, and now I gotta come in here. Nah, man, come on. Let me give me my 45 minutes to an hour when I get off work. We ain't gotta talk. We ain't gotta say nothing.
So you saying self-care for you as a man is not being married to 6 wives?
I wouldn't want 6 wives.
Well, yeah.
You saying that? You looking like I take 3, but
I won't even take 3. But it's just certain things. If you pay attention to a man, or you in a relationship, you pay attention to your husband or boyfriend or fiance, whatever you got.
I like that too. You always
But if you pay attention to him, he'll show you, or he'll give you the keys of when he need to be left the heck alone.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad
it's times when his tone would change, and we're like, "Hey, you might want to move around and leave me alone."
Ooh, so
but
harsh.
you sometimes you have to be harsh because
that's protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But Doc V, and something you and he talked about earlier, and you were talking about women and how the image of the world has put so much pressure on them, and they trying to do self-care in a different way. It happens to men now too. And here's the image that the world has portrayed. If you're not making enough as a man, you're inadequate as a man. That's what the world is telling a lot of young men. You have to be at a certain level of living, spending, and all of this, especially, with these, now, what is it? You got to take a girl, you got to spend money, you got to spend a bag, you got to dine them and wine them and fly them out.
No,
but I'm just saying. That's the world is telling me that you're inadequate.
But here's the funny part about that. Oh, boy, Jesus. High five me, man. You the man up there. I'm telling you, the man. It's the females that thinks on that level that can't even do it for themselves.
I'm agreeing on that.
So at the end of the day, if I'm in a relationship, if we're in a team, and I always got to spend on you because you feel that I got to go get you a Louis purse or Gucci bag, and you can't buy your own Louis purse or your own Gucci bag, then shut up talking to me.
She can buy it. She just wants you to buy
No, no,
one
no,
too.
no, no, no. 9 times out of 10, the female that actually think the way he's thinking is the type of female that can't go get it herself because she feel the man got to provide, or man going to do this, man got to get off your butt. We're a team.
And
Let's rock out.
I'm going to give you self-care, and we're going to let you get out of here. And when I say that, over the last week, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade caught flight because Gabrielle Union said her and Dwayne Wade go 50-50 on everything. Everybody was calling how he immature, he a bum, he should not know. But that self-care is in their house. They know what each other need, how to care for each other.
Okay.
So that's a team. So that's what I'm saying. Respect. But, a lot of people don't see that. So they think.
I love that because, with them being married, and respecting each other's space, because a lot of times even in marriage people lose each other and that individuality. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. We didn't talk about being married and what self-care looks like. So
teamwork make the dream work. So at the end of the day, if we can't rock out together and work out. Because it's gonna be times I'm gonna fall short. It's gonna be times you fall short.
That's right.
But as long as when you fall short, you fall back on me, and I'll do the same on you. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Back on your partner. I like that. Well, for me, as we're exiting, Oprah was one of the people that I looked at, and for Oprah it was so awesome to hear. But she says on Sunday, so she definitely respects the Sabbath and she keeps the Sabbath for rest. And so on her Sabbath day, she says she just liked to stay in her pajamas and she just liked to take a walk. So she definitely liked to be isolated, just by herself, and maybe read a good book.
I walked those 200 acres too.
Yeah, I know that's right. Counting all those blessings.
Yeah, I walked in 200 acres too.
Yes, serenity. And so I love that because that definitely reminds me of me. But it is time for us to go. And, I got this chocolate around me because for some people, eating fine chocolate is self-care.
Yes.
Rewarding yourself is self-care.
Yes.
And not feeling guilty about it. And so as we exit, we want to say thank you for hanging with us. And I want to remind you of this. This is for men and women. Make yourself a priority.
Amen.
And don't feel guilty about it. And as we always say when we leave our people,
always protect your mind.
Thank you. Good night.